are you doing here?
Getting you out. Here, put this on. You'll need it.
Gears of War has always been one of those exclusive console franchises that interest me. Some of you out there may be aware that crossplay has been enabled on Gears of War since day one. But in order to connect to Xbox 360 players, PC required an Xbox Live Gold subscription. So you can understand how that went down on PC, right? Because it seemed like Microsoft were trying to get PC and Xbox users to play together without the need for an Xbox Live Gold subscription. It's an illusion because you could add Xbox 360 players via Gates for Windows Live, but you couldn't play with them for whatever reason. So with that mindset, why was Microsoft trying to confuse PC players? Were they trying to give us the assumption that Gears 2, 3, and Judgment were coming to PC eventually? Interesting. Fast forward to March 2016, Gears of War Ultimate Edition gets a PC port. It was here that reinstated that spark in all Gears fans who transitioned into PC gaming since the original release, who said, does this mean that we get the rest of the Gears games on PC? Maybe that was just me. Sadly, that hasn't happened yet. Although we do have Gears 4 and 5, but we still await the day the other Gears titles make their way to PC. Seriously though, the only way that Gears 2, 3, and Judgment will be playable on PC is by emulation at this rate. And I'm not talking about first-party emulation. Come on, Microsoft. You have a fan base here on PC. Get with it. That was a longer intro than I was expecting, but let's take a closer look at the PC port of Gears of War Ultimate Edition, and let's try to work out what went wrong with this release.
Shit.
The purpose of showing you side-by-side comparisons with the Xbox One version is to show you that the game doesn't function well on any setting. The first level of the game is a prime example of how terrible the PC version truly is. And all these tests are running with an unlocked frame rate. I'll get into the reason why in a moment. Keep an eye on the GPU usage throughout these tests, and you can clearly see at key points in the gameplay where the GPU usage plummets without much change to the scene itself, but drastically reduces performance. As we go outside into this courtyard, you can see that the difference between low and medium is about 200 megabytes of VRAM. In total, low is using 2 gigabytes of VRAM. Why? So basically the developer is saying that extra 200 megabytes, lose about 20 FPS, GPU usage drops 10%. What? I wanted to outline this scene because on low, it looks like the game is trying to use similar textures to medium, but for some reason on low, or there's specific assets in the game that are still detailed at low visuals, but the Xbox One version appears to be more medium to high textures. It's very weird. So I'm going to keep the side-by-sides going, but also I do want to outline that high and ultra for this first mission is very, very strange. So on the one hand, we've got increased texture resolution, but on the other hand, we have performance being oddly similar, which makes zero sense whatsoever if medium performs worse than high or ultra. So what the fuck is going on here? All this is doing is showing me that higher quality textures were added to the game, but nothing was done to ensure smooth gameplay. For high and ultra to have oddly similar performance, you have to ask the question as to why. What's the difference between high and ultra that's so minuscule that the performance is pretty much identical for a lot of the experience? But here, you'll notice that when the GPU usage increases to about 51%, so does the frame rate. So why did the developer not incorporate some infrastructure with this game that allowed it to, soak up the resources that it requires? For further testing, here's the game locked at 30 FPS with ultra textures and shadows on low. Notice how the GPU usage is still low, but there hasn't been a single dropped frame. That's where I believe that Gears of War Ultimate Edition on PC was designed with 30 FPS in mind, and then later unlocked to support an unlimited frame rate, without the optimizations put in place to support that. There is little to no evidence to show that the developer has put any thought into the PC version of the game, but more than likely just hit build Windows version in the engine and sent that to Microsoft for publishing. You might be sitting there thinking, well, you clearly need a better PC to run this game at high or ultra. At first glance, you may think that. However, here's my performance in Gears 5 in a larger scale area compared to the starting scene of Gears of War Ultimate Edition. You should be able to understand that there's something fundamentally wrong with the way Gears of War Ultimate Edition runs on PC compared to Gears 5. Now for the sake of argument, I'm going to disable dynamic resolution scaling on Gears 5 and re-show the same scene. Not sure if that has anything to do with it, but I can disable it in the config. As you can see, not much has changed. To further squash some potential, ooh, lock the game at 60 FPS, you might get better performance. No. The game, for some reason, at this specific section in the first level, dips performance no matter what your frame rate is, besides 30 FPS. Here's 60 FPS locked. So what this tells us is that Gears of War Ultimate Edition has some serious rendering and optimization issues on PC. But if I show you the CPU and GPU usage of the OG game on my current specs, you might be shocked. A side-by-side with the original version shows both still using less than ideal GPU usage, but the older version doesn't require high-end PC hardware to run compared to the newer one. With that said though, the original was locked at 60 FPS. And yes, I did try to unlock it via the config, but that doesn't let the game run. So I'd say the old version is far more optimized for 60 FPS than the newer version, because the system resources are actually being effectively utilized, whereas on the Ultimate Edition, they are way too low to even be considered effective utilization at all. At the time of making this video, it is April 2020. The Ultimate Edition was released in 2016, and they've had 4 years to fix it. The Coalition has since released 2 other Gears games to PC that run fine by comparison, though keep in mind they do use dynamic resolution, so that is a consideration. However, we do live in a world where console developers try to skimp by on resolution by adding dynamically changing resolution scale technology into their engines, without thinking to optimize the game first. It should be optimize it, then think about how those functions work for 4K gameplay on something like an Xbox One X, for example. This type of behavior needs to stop. Not only is it hindering gameplay due to adding more potential for hitching or frame skips to occur during gameplay, but it's also lazy coding. Yes, I'm sure it's actually quite advanced code, but it's a very cheap way to fake optimization over actually optimizing the title. Going from a prestige level PC port of the original Gears of War to a half-baked cardboard cutout of the Xbox One version sprayed with glitter and spruced up with options doesn't hide the fact the game is horribly optimized for higher than 30 FPS. The likelihood of us seeing the Ultimate Edition running comfortably with Gears of War 2, 3 and Judgment on PC is very, very unlikely at this point. Though there is a market for this game on PC, Microsoft, you just have to provide the PC community with respect. You demand that the community purchase your titles with your broken store, rather than providing people options to throw their money at you. How can you expect something like this to generate sales? The simple answer is you can't. A more tinfoil hat reply would be they've done this on purpose to show that the game doesn't sell well on PC, therefore they don't have to port it over. Do it right the first time and we wouldn't be in this mess to begin with, Microsoft. A bit of background as to why I'm so pissed off that the Ultimate Edition of Gears of War doesn't run very well on PC is that I can remember the first time I played Gears of War on Xbox 360 in 2006-2007, but I was sitting at a mate's house one time and booted up this new game his brother got, Gears of War. From that moment, I was glued to the TV screen playing this thing. For a game to have vastly different mechanics to what I was used to, from a cover system, chainsaw gun, to gore, this concept absolutely blew my mind at the time. Now fast forward a bit and the PC version was released. I hunted that bad boy down like it was my only mission in life. Couldn't find it anywhere. It was almost like stores just chose not to stock this thing, until I called up Game Traders. Yeah, remember those guys? They were the only store in my city that had the game in stock. Now remember, at this time there was none of this online purchase nonsense, or it wasn't widely available in Australia, so naturally I got them to hold it for me. I still have this copy of Gears of War for PC to this day. That's how much this game means to me. It started my PC gameplay experience. So I hope that you can understand just how exciting the prospect of playing Gears of War on PC was for me, and still is. I'm still waiting for the rest of the Gears games to make their way over to the unicorn land that is PC. I was hoping that since the inclusion of the Universal Windows Platform, or UWP, with Microsoft's Xbox One console, and the Windows 10 PC integration, along with Xbox One now supporting backwards compatibility, that finally, I could play them on PC. But sadly, that's still not the case. On the subject of backwards compatible titles from Xbox 360, the Xbox One still has to re-download the game anyway, so why can't this happen with PC? Or allow it to run on the PC if it works fine on Xbox One? It's the same architecture. The OG Gears of War game was ported to PC by People Can Fly. You may know them from other critically acclaimed titles such as Bulletstorm, or, working on the other Gears of War games, and solely developing Gears of War Judgment. These guys are great at what they do and seem to understand the Unreal Engine like it's the back of their hand. So Microsoft, I ask you, why in the fuck would you let this new Gears developer go anywhere near the PC port of the original game? Why? Anyway, hopefully you found this video somewhat entertaining, as much as I did making it, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, people.
Copy that, Delta. I'm sorry, but I don't see any other options on my screen.